germane to the neighborhood and to the various communities that make up this part of the 57th Assembly District. My name is Walter Mosley, the New York State Assemblyman from the aforementioned 57th Assembly District, which represents Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Prospect Heights, portions of North Crown Heights, as well as portions of Bedford-Stuyvesant. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for allowing me to serve another term in the New York State Assembly. I want to thank you all for your efforts this past election cycle as we seek to move forward some very progressive initiatives that have unfortunately been held back over the past several years, all the years that I've been in the Assembly since 2013. Likewise, I want to thank all of you for coming out on this Monday night as we prepare for the holidays which are upon us. Likewise, I want to thank my colleagues, Congresswoman Clark and City Councilwoman Majority Leader Lori Cumbo, for co-sponsoring this event. I have representatives from their office here as well. As many of you know, this is going to be a town hall meeting, but more so conversation, because right now, as many of you have come up to me on the streets, have called my office, looking for answers, looking for a venue to voice your concerns. It was really up to us as elected officials to have this town hall before the year's out and to have subsequent ones. We've had many, many meetings, intimate meetings, whether it be in small charrettes or smaller community meetings throughout the district and throughout the area. But more importantly, we wanted to make sure that going forward that we were a little bit more public as it relates to a vast majority of these projects, if not all these projects, which a vast majority of them will be receiving some type of public subsidies. I don't want to waste any time. What I'm going to do is give you a brief description of each project. We will talk and just have conversation and have questions as well as a statement. Please be mindful that we're only here for a certain amount of time. We have 5 projects to go over. We'll be taking notes. We'll be making sure that we are listening more so than talking, but at the same time, we also have to understand that we have to be mindful of the fact that this is a church that is operating outside of their normal hours, and that the people who run this church have to go home as well to their families. So, as it says on the flyer, we're going to be talking about 5 projects. First one being 40 Crown Street, the old laundromat. The second one will be 960 Franklin Avenue, the old Spice Factory. Third one will be 1535 Bedford Avenue, the old BP gas station. Then we'll be talking about the First Baptist Church, Crown Heights project at 450 Eastern Parkway. And then last but certainly not least, we'll be winding up with the Bedford Union Armory and some of the latest developments that actually took place over this weekend, which I can share with you. So I want to, if you have a question or concern, please raise your hand. My staffer, Gabriel, will come to you with the microphone. We're here just to be cordial to one another and professional, but at the same time, I want to make sure that your voices are heard. This is not the first time I would have spoken up against some of these projects or for some of these projects. They won't be the last. But we wanted to make sure we had something at the end of the year before we get into the holidays that allow for you to express your concerns as it relates to development here in this portion of Crown Heights going forward. So again, thank you, Full Gospel, for this opportunity. Thank you guys for coming out on this damp Monday evening. And if you have any questions, raise your hands. First project we'll be dealing with is 40 Crown Street. The developer is Cornell Realty. They're located on 3rd Avenue in New York City. It's the old laundromat facility. It's a new zoning that would pave the way for potentially proposed 2 16-story, 175-foot tall buildings at 40 Crown Street and 931 Carroll Street. If the developer decides to work with the current zoning plans filed in 2014, they can move forward. Back then, the firm hoped to erect 4 7-story buildings with 209 apartments, maxing out at relatively low height limits and density allowed in southern Crown Heights. Both sites sit between Franklin and Washington Avenues, next to the Franklin Avenue shuttle tracks. The Crown Heights buildings would span 427,634 square feet and hold 390 apartments, 150 of which would rent far below market rates. It would also include 16,300 square feet of retail and 114 parking spots. Development sites stretch from Crown Street to Montgomery Street in front and the near block along the western side of Franklin Avenue. This project, as of now, to my knowledge, is not seeking any form of state or city subsidies. So it is as what we call an as-of-right project, but it is a project that is still being negotiated as we speak. So does anyone have any questions or concerns or statements as it relates to 490 Crown Street laundry facility? Raise your hand. You can stay seated. There's no need to be standing.
What percentage of it would be affordable housing?
Well, right now they say that it's going to become a mixed use of 165 affordable rents, 12 middle income condominiums, and 165 market rent. That's the proposal, with 48 condominiums. So I'll say it again. They currently hope to convert a portion of the property into a recreational space, and the rest will become a mix of 165 affordable rentals. Now, when you say affordable rentals, we don't know what that means. We don't know what AMI they're working with. We don't know the square footage of the AMIs, apartments under an affordable AMI reflective of the current AMI in the neighborhood. We don't know the square footage of the middle income condominiums or the market rate rentals or the condominiums that they're proposing. So all of this is really what they project or desire to have. At the same time, no details have been discussed with me or my colleagues.
So that's the only building in area going up for affordable housing, pretty much? That's the only building that will be going up for affordable housing in the area, besides, because next door
No,
is
these projects all have some form of affordable housing in it, so, but they're all at various stages. So I can't even say that for one project because they're not even at a point where they're looking to excavate as well as, having specs out. And that's the First Baptist Church. So I don't want to jump around it. So I can't say that definitively because they haven't even put out their proposal.
I asked you.
The mic comes in.
Let me just talk then. My question, what I'm asking. I can stand up. I need you to speak slower and louder. Okay? Thank you.
I don't want to yell and bother people from hearing. But at the same time, I know we got 5 projects to go through. That's why I'm sorry. I'm trying to get through everything. I want to make sure we get through everything all in this one evening. So when we go to the next evening, we can just follow up based upon what we discussed today. Okay? I'm sorry about that.
So what's happening for me is that I'm not. What's happening for me is because Robert, we can't hear you, Robert.
She just want to speak to him directly.
I stopped talking. I stopped talking. For me, because of the pace that you're speaking, it's difficult for me to follow you, and I really do need to follow you because I'm covering this for our time press newspaper. So then when you said, and this is for the laundry facility at 40 Crown Street, you had mentioned 165 units, I think, then 12 units, and then another 165 units.
165 units affordable rentals.
Yes.
12 middle income condominiums, 165 market rate rentals, and 48 condominiums. That's what they initially are proposing. That will not be the final outcome. I guarantee you that.
You mentioned 390 units for 40 Crown. How many units are in 931 Carroll Street?
Well, we get to when we, oh, I'm sorry. All right, so for 931, the plan for 931 was this, I'm sorry, that's a combination of these two projects. I apologize. For 931 combined with the other project. So that's a combination of both sites. I apologize for that. Okay, clarification.
You have a question?
First, just to be clear, this project we have been viewing for the last year, and it is a combined of two sites that have 565 units combined. One site has 390 and the other site has 165, and then there's a third site that's going to have another 48 units. So that's for clarity purposes. It's important if our elected officials are going to sit there and give us information that they give it correctly. Second, this is not an as-of-right project. This is a project that is now going through the land use review process through the City Council. Community Board 9 stated no. Borough Hall stated no with conditions, which allowed it to move on to the Department of City Planning, and the Department of City Planning just said yes. On Thursday, this project is now going in front of the subcommittee of the City Council. So that's what we did and what we analyzed is we analyzed the environmental assessment review that's required by the state. We asked Walter Mosley to meet with us because we found out that Cornell Realty had violated the environmental review assessment that's required for all projects that are developed in the state to adhere to environmental issues. He refused to meet with us. We made phone calls, we called him, we sent letters, he refused. Okay, fine, he refused. What we do know is that they have violated the environmental review process by not including the entire height of these buildings. They used 175 feet to determine their shadow study when in fact it would be 235 feet. Another 6.5 stories they did not include in their shadow study, and thus they did not do it correctly. So we have asked our assembly person to address this issue, and he simply refuses. Now he's coming to this community board meeting and actually saying that this is an as-of-right situation when it is not. So it would be important that our assembly person understands what exactly is on the table.
All right, I will say this, the as-of-right project as it relates to this project has no subsidies. They're not seeking no financial subsidies from the city or state. Now, as it relates to your request to meet with me, I told my office that I was out of town. You failed to take that into account, and you called me while I was in Los Angeles. You called me, and you called me 8 times by 8 different people that told me that you told them to give them a call. Now, I'm waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, taking calls from people, and I told them that I would have a meeting at the end of the summer so that the community can have their say. And that's what we're doing right now. So no one has ever said that we would not meet. Now, will I not meet with a particular person? Probably not, because I understand that there is, whatever history you have with me, I don't know if there is any. I don't know if you want to, continue to, confront me and be disrespectful to me or my colleagues. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that we gave everybody a chance to talk and speak and be heard as it relates to this project as well as other projects. So it was nothing about you, it was about the community at large, And that's where we stood.
Yes, sir. The operative word you had said just a few seconds ago, minutes ago, was combined. And combined implies segmentation, which is an age-old game that real estate developers use. And so this is an old shenanigan. This is as old as the hills. And combined, that's the operative word. And it sort of makes me wonder, are you complicit with the developers? And I think you are.
No, I've never met them.
Well, then what about segmentation? Please address that.
Only time I've actually been in a room with this developer was when there was a community board meeting and they withdrew their original application. I don't know these developers. I've seen them from a distance. So for you to say that I know them, I would love to know that. I would love to tell you, or you tell me where I met them and where I've been introduced to them, because I don't know them.
Well, you haven't answered combined.
I guess a quick point of clarification. Is it the number of units you said or the number of units?
It's my number.
Do we know or can we clarify that later on?
These, from the reports that we've received and from the information that has been given to me, this is the aggregate number of units based upon those two particular towers that they're looking to build out on. So that's the news.
It's on my website. You can go to my website. I have the documentation from the environmental assessment statement. It's 565. I also have the application. It says 565. There's no reason for me to come to the public and say otherwise.
Well, it sounds like we'll clear it up later on. So I guess the next question was, there was a question about the height. And I also think the Botanical Garden has also had an objection. I guess, how can we resolve that or take that concern forward?
Well, we do have a representative from the Botanical Gardens. If he wishes to address that.
Oh, let me get him on camera, please.
If you like, I can, sorry. I brought with me a statement that we sent around, and I can just read you part of it. My name is James Harris. I'm Director of Government Affairs at the Garden. Let's see. With several high-rise buildings proposed in Crown Heights directly east of DBG, the Garden has been busy the past several months expressing concerns with city officials about the impact these tall building shadows could have on DBG's living collection. We have determined that Cornell and Carmell Parters cited projects on Carroll and Crown Streets. We're not going to take a position on these projects because it's farther away and their early morning summer shadows will have little to no impact on the garden.
I guess one part of that really again, I just clarify, this comment was made that the study was done with a lower height than the real height.
Our understanding, right. Our understanding was that the height is 17 and a half, roughly 17 and a half stories. Not, I don't know where the 23 stories is.
Because of the bulkheads.
My understanding is the bulkheads are not as high as you think.
It's not a matter of how high I think they are. It's a matter of what is allowed. It's allowed 40 feet, and so you're supposed to assess at 40 feet because that's how high they can build. So it's not, has nothing to do with me. It has to do with what the city says. 175 is not considering the 40 feet of bulkheads.
So what they're applying for is the RX8, which is only 16 stories. And what this young lady is talking about is what's the maximum they can apply for. So that's where there's a discrepancy. Question? I think we have a question.
Blessed love. Yeah, man, hold it up, sir. Since you have a hold it up so I could speak up, you know? Give thanks to you, my Lord. The gentleman that spoke of the botanical garden spoke of the plants and the tree which give us the oxygen necessary for us to exist. And as the tree exists, we exist. So there's a sharing happening, you know. So I make that point about the humans up by the school that I just graduated from, Medgar Evers College. I don't know what role CUNY has in even that institution being the foundation of Africana study, especially in Brooklyn, as it relates to the history of Brooklyn and the relation of slavery is not spoken of. And to know that we are talking about development between the space of Empire and Eastern Parkway, where Medgar Evers is situated, yet Medgar Evers has not grown. So we feel the injustice to that institution impact the community. So the developments will happen, especially when we reach on the armory. There has to be some archaeological research done as to what remains in there. Their soul are not happy and they're not pleased. There's 400 years next year, in 2019, from 1619. There is a legislation, it's called HR 1242. You understand? It was signed by President Trump. And that legislation is saying African people should be celebrated because of their contribution to the building of the United States. However, it is not being implemented. So we need to address building up this little community around Medgar Evers College. So we ask the state, in you, our legislator, to don't allow these capitalists to take over this little area that Medgar Evers should be represented. All of us. There's no other black predominant school in CUNY of 24. So there is separate and unequal treatment amongst the CUNY institution and Medgar Evers College. So may I speak up for Medgar because he spoke up for the garden. Me, again, Medgar, freedom, justice, and knowledge in peace. That is the symbol of Medgar Evers College. And the current president at Medgar Evers College may, in his limitation, not be able to speak for us, but me love and honor Dr. Crow for what he's doing. He brought a powerful individual at Medgar Evers College. This is necessary for me to share with the community what they're doing up there. Dr. Joanne Rowe deals with economic development. She's an economist by trade. To even have a black economist is something that in the 400 years of America, who has one? So to honor her, Dr. Rowe, she is why I am here to speak tonight. So Medgar needs to be the center of the development. All of this needs to stop. All of this. There is no other place that African people has a say. And Brooklyn is going to be it. So we have you as our representative with the state. We have the city, and our federal representative should be here also to hear this. And to stop this, because Medgar is going to produce individuals like me to come and change it.
I thank you for those comments.
Yeah.
Stop it. This is a point of clarification. Congresswoman is in Washington, D.C. She's represented here by her district director, as well as Councilwoman Cumbo's representative is here as well. So I don't want to make an issue of that. But Medgar Evers is still being talked to as it relates to the project you alluded to. Because it emanated from the idea in the mind of Congressman Major Owens. It would be a travesty if Medgar Evers was not a part of this project going forward. So we're having these conversations. I just actually had a meeting with Dr. Crew 2 weeks ago about making sure that Medgar Evers College was a part of this program in a very tangible way. We have a question over here, 2 questions.
Good evening. I live at 35 Crown Street, and I'm also on one of the members of Community Board 9, and I also chaired the board recently. This project has been in front of us more than 3 times, and the board, after hearing everybody's concerns, the board voted no. And I understand that the Botanical Gardens have not withdrawn their objections to the project. But we also must take in consideration that folks live on, community residents live on the block.
Thank you.
We have buildings that's only 6 stories.
Thank you.
There's 35, there's 15, and there's 12. So when you're talking about building a 17-story building, or maybe a 30-story building, because that was the first project they wanted to do, 30 stories, and then you have Tivoli Towers on the right-hand side of the street, you created a canyon.
Thank you.
Because you're blocking our sunlight.
Thank you.
And we want to have enough sunlight. And certainly, every day, we hear the doctors and the scientists talking about how important it is for sunlight and for people to have that. So I would like for you all, for everyone to take that into consideration too when you're looking at these projects. Thank you.
While we're doing this, we're still on the first project, and there are a lot of projects that we're supposed to be talking to tonight, so I invite my peers to limit their comments or questions, let's just have questions, to 2 minutes, maybe 3, because we definitely want to hear about the Armory and the Spice Factory. We want to hear about all of them, but those two in particular, we definitely want to hear about and be able to ask the assembly member all the questions so that when he leaves his table, we know he heard us.
Hello, how you doing, everyone? I'm a student at Medgar Evers College. First and foremost, I mean, if we really wanted to hear about each and every one in a manageable time to hear everyone, I think it would have been reasonable to have more than one meeting concerning these projects on a separate time. That's first and foremost. And secondly, concerning the projects, it's like, what exactly are you seeking from the community? Because on numerous occasions, they just told you that it's something that they don't want. Community, do y'all really want this? Is this a project that you guys want?
No.
So if we're already saying that we do not want this, I mean, why are we continuously seeking on behalf of the development? It looks like you have the interest of the development. The community that voted you in is saying that they do not want this on numerous occasions. Here again, everyone, do you guys want this? Can we take a look?
No.
We don't want it.
Thank you.
Just for the record, we will have other meetings, so I don't want you to think this is a one-shot deal, like we only have one meeting.
This is almost about to be
this
launched.
year, next year, so be mindful of that. Just as we had many meetings as relates to particular projects in this that are on this list, leading up to today, we'll have more meetings as relates to these projects as well as others. Back there.
My name is Michael. I live at 12 Crown Street. I've lived there, well, I've been in Crown Heights for over 30 years. I just wanted to mention 2 things. One, they're building a 12-story building right around the corner from me on Montgomery Street. And what the lady from 35 Crown Street just said is true. My building is a 6-story building, and they're building a 12-story condominium. And they've got to about 7 levels so far, and everyone in the back of the building no longer has sunlight. And when it's done, we're not going to have any sort of breeze during the summer. So these high-rises are going to impact the existing 6-story buildings around there. I mean, it's going to it's decreasing our quality of life, I think. And I don't know if you guys take that into consideration, but you probably should. And the second thing I want to mention is, as someone who lives in this neighborhood, every morning I'm sure everyone here has the same experience when you go to the subway, how crowded it is, when you go to supermarkets. So I guess what I'm thinking is, how are we going to dump another 4,000 or 5,000 people into this community when you don't have the resources? You know?
They want to displace and move you out and move them in. Let's be honest. For displacement.
Hi, my name is Nicola. I'm at 14 Ludlam Place. I am president of the Sullivan Ludlam Stoddard Neighborhood Association, as well as on the ULIP committee. One of the questions that I have, and it piggybacks on what I believe it was Michael had said, when it comes to Crown Street, we have over 500 units there. They have said that because in their application, they put that their number was below the threshold to trigger a mandatory environmental assessment. That's one project. All of these other projects are also, from what I can see, trying to wiggle around an environmental assessment. What type of cumulative assessment are we going to do to look at the impact on this neighborhood when it comes to sewerage, when it comes to water, etc.? Because transportation, all of this is going to have a significant impact, our schools, etc. And I don't see anyone taking a look at what that impact is going to be on us, much less the lighted here.
Questions I had for one of the individuals who came to my office, and I asked them just that question about schools. I said, are you willing to make a significant investment into the infrastructure of this community? Because we understand that we're going to continue to get taxed, just like we're getting taxed in other parts of this city, whether it's downtown Brooklyn, whether it's in Lower Manhattan, whether it's in Long Island City. Everybody gets taxed when you're talking about building and putting in hundreds of thousands of people within a small radius, whether it's our roadways, our subways, our bus routes, our schools, our fire, our first responders. Someone who sits on the committee, the housing committee, the assembly, that's always the case that we're always arguing when we're talking about developers who come to our office one way or another, trying to figure out what can they do to take advantage of our community without making a real and significant investment back into the community in which they're looking to reap some type of financial reward. When I spoke to this group, or this representative of the group, who no longer represents them, I was pretty adamant and pretty vocal when it came to that particular issue, because we're talking about building a boutique supermarket. And I said, that doesn't represent the community that I represent. No one's going to go to this boutique restaurant. So what are you telling me? Are you projecting something that I don't see or something that you want to see? And at that time, the person who was representing them relayed that message to them. And from there, we never had conversations, no direct conversations from there, because then eventually that person fired these developers because of non-payment. And they're notorious for that. From what I've been told from colleagues of mine. So, like I said, I've never met them, and I've met a representative of theirs, but that's the mindset of this group in particular. And unfortunately, they have a bad pattern in practice throughout the city of doing things like this. We're going to try to limit one question per person on a particular topic. I'll let this gentleman go again for this one particular project, but to make sure that we take care of, use our time wisely, please, if you have multiple questions, just ask them in succession when you get the mic on a particular project.
Yes, this is germane to what the lady in the back said about 2 minutes ago, and that is with regard to sewage.